Beijing, 1958. One man stands on a balcony and orders 1 billion people to kill every bird in the sky. Moscow, same decade. Another man sits at a desk, crossing out names. Every name on that list is a death sentence. One killed 45 million with stupidity. The other killed 20 million with a signature. Mao versus Stalin. Who was worse? From who they were, to what they did on purpose. And by the end, you'll understand why one of them is still on display in a glass box. Mao Zedong, a librarian making $8 a month reading about revolution in a newspaper. 20 years later, he's standing on that balcony, commanding 1 billion people. He told intellectuals to speak freely, then arrested everyone who did. Stalin, born with a name nobody could pronounce in Georgia, studied to be a priest, dropped out, robbed banks for the revolution, changed his name to Stalin, which means man of steel. He ran the Soviet Union for 30 years, and by the end, his own doctors were too afraid to treat him. Two men, one who thought he could reshape reality, one who thought everyone was out to get him. Let's start with who they were, behind closed doors. 1950, Korea. Mao's own son dies in an American bombing. Direct hit. No body to send home. Mao's response? In revolution, people die. He said it the way you'd cancel a meeting. Then he went back to work. 20 years later, at 72 years old, Mao swam across the Yangtze River on camera. State media said he covered 15 kilometers in 65 minutes. That's faster than Olympic swimmers. 1 billion people watched, and not a single one said, "That's impossible." Moscow, 1932. Stalin's wife, he humiliated her at a dinner party. She walked out. By morning, she was dead. Bullet in her chest. He told the country it was a stomach illness. A stomach illness from a pistol. His son tried to shoot himself, survived. Stalin's response? He can't even shoot straight. When the Germans captured him, they offered a trade. Stalin said, "I will not trade a marshal for a lieutenant," about his own son. The boy died in a prison camp, and when people disappointed him, he didn't just kill them, he erased them from photographs. His secret police chief stood next to him in a photo. Stalin had him shot, then cut from the picture. Then he sent millions of citizens a letter. Cut these pages from your encyclopedia, paste in the new version. An entire country rewriting history with scissors. He even named a city after himself, Stalingrad. At least Mao never renamed Beijing. Mao's people carried his book. Stalin's people checked his lists. One was surrounded by believers, the other by suspects. But personal madness is one thing. What happened when these men got their hands on policy was worse. Mao's worst decision started with birds. 1958. Mao decided that sparrows were eating too much grain. His solution? Kill every sparrow in China. He ordered every citizen, men, women, children, to go outside and bang pots and pans until the birds dropped dead from exhaustion. They killed 2 billion sparrows. Then the locust came, because nothing was eating them anymore. Then the locusts ate the crops. Then the famine came. And while the famine was spreading, Mao ordered peasants to build backyard furnaces to make steel. They melted their own pots, their tools, their farming equipment. The steel was worthless. The food went unplanted. 45 million people starved in 4 years. He called it the Great Leap Forward. Before World War II, Stalin purged his own army. 3 of his 5 top generals shot. 13 of 15 army commanders, shot. He gutted the military, then wondered why it couldn't fight. He received 87 separate warnings that Hitler was about to invade. He ignored every one. When the attack finally came, Stalin disappeared to his country house. The man who called himself Man of Steel hid for 3 days while his country burned. He came back, he won the war, but 27 million Soviet citizens were dead. Some victory, 45 million from stupidity, 27 million from arrogance. But we haven't talked about the ones who died, not from bad decisions, but because these men wanted them dead. Stalin, Ukraine, 1932. He took the grain from the people who grew it, exported it, and sealed the borders so they couldn't even leave. 3.5 to 7 million people starved to death in one of the most fertile regions on Earth. Mao stood in Shanghai and said, I quote, "It is better to let half the people die so the other half can eat their fill." Stalin signed an order to execute 22,000 Polish officers, shot in the back of the head, then blamed it on someone else for 50 years. During Mao's Cultural Revolution, in one province, people ate each other's organs, not from hunger. There was no famine there. They did it out of political loyalty. 421 named victims consumed. Stalin's labor camps processed 18 million people. 1.5 million died, worked to death in Siberian frost, and somehow one of them is still on display. The evidence is in. 70% of Russians in a modern poll said Stalin's role in history was positive. Mao killed 45 million, and his face is still on every banknote in China. His portrait still hangs on Tiananmen Square. His little red book still in print, 1 billion copies. Stalin's own daughter fled to America. Even his blood chose the land of his enemy. Mao lasted 27 days before they arrested his wife. Her defense at the trial? I was only following Mao's orders. Stalin died on the floor, in his own urine. His guards were too afraid to open the door. His doctors were in prison because he put them there. He lay there for 12 hours and no one came. Mao wanted to be cremated. They ignored him, sealed his body in a crystal box. He's still there. Millions walk past him every year. The man a billion people couldn't question, still on display. Even in death, he couldn't get what he wanted. A man who studied to be a priest couldn't pass his exams and passed death sentences on 20 million. A man who told intellectuals to speak, then destroyed everyone who did, then starved 45 million and called it progress. One killed with stupidity, the other with a signature. But the dead? They don't care about the difference. Stalin killed 20 million and they forgot. Mao killed 45 million and his portrait still hangs. The only difference? One country woke up, the other hasn't. Mao takes it, not as a winner, as a defendant. Between them, 65 million dead, and the world moved on. Next time, one made $100 million in 1928, the other burned 2 million to keep his daughter warm. Capone versus Escobar, the money is dirty.